The Lord had a plan. He was following down the path of Jonah exactly. Because I saw in a vision, the Lord put me over the Gulf of Mexico, and I saw America as Nineveh. And I saw this in 1996. And what the Lord was showing me was He's going to delay the judgment that was due America. I saw it in a vision. And, Isaiah 13 is the story of the destruction of Babylon. I'm sure probably a lot of you agree with me on that Babylon is America. A lot of faithful prophets have pointed that out, and it's the truth. Babylon was called the Great Eagle by Ezekiel in Ezekiel chapter 17, the Great Eagle. It was also the greatest military and merchant nation of its time. It ruled the nations. It was the head of gold in the image of the beast. Oh, that's interesting. It was the head of gold. It ruled over the nations. It rode the back of the beast. What's happening right now, folks? You couldn't see it clearer. I mean, what is America doing? It's ruling the world. And it's on the back of the beast. It's ruling the United Nations, right? It's very clear. And Babylon was that type, except there are prophecies about Babylon that were never fulfilled on physical Babylon. They will be fulfilled in these end times, okay? And this destruction right here does not fit physical Babylon. If you can read it very carefully and see. Verse 9, it says, "Behold, the day of the Lord cometh." Wow, there it is again. You want to know when America is going to be destroyed? The day of the Lord. I'll tell you why I know this, because the Lord showed me that when He delayed the destruction of America, He took it from before the tribulation and put it after the tribulation. I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue with me on that, but you write it down because it's going to happen. Okay? That's what happened to Nineveh. Nineveh, when God delayed the destruction of Nineveh, it was so that Nineveh could conquer the people of God. You understand? That's why He delayed it. He needed Nineveh to conquer the people of God. They were in rebellion. And after they conquered the people of God and kept them in bondage, then God destroyed Nineveh. Well, that's what's going to happen to America. We don't like to think about it, but America is going to persecute the saints. America is going to bring the saints into bondage. Okay? It's going to happen. The day of the Lord is this reckoning. Verse 9, "Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel with wrath." There it is again. "And fierce anger, to make the land a desolation, and to destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light." Here it is again. "The sun shall be darkened in its going forth, and the moon shall not cause its light to shine." You know what happens right here? Right here, the 10 kings destroy the harlot. And they do it with a nuclear war. A nuclear war begins the great and terrible day of the Lord. And America is the number one nation to be hit. The first nation to be hit. The Lord's shown it to me very plainly in the Scriptures, but I can't go into that right now. But America's going to be the number one. It's going to be hit. And not only that, He goes on to mention verse 11, "And I will punish the world for their evil." Not just Babylon. This is going to punish the whole world. Because America can't get hit without hitting back. And this is the whole world is going to be in the first real world war. We've never had a world war. You know that, don't you? Never had one. This is a world war. But what people don't know is it's between God and the nations. That's what the book says. And they're all losing. All of them. So, but we win. I read the end of the book, right? And in Jeremiah chapter 25, it says, speaking of this same time, by the way, he's actually quoting a time when A.A. Allen's vision, the Lord quoted this particular portion to A.A. Allen in his vision, but it went on to say that evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and the dead in that day will be from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. We're talking about a real nuclear war here. Okay? Go with me to Revelation 14 and verse 14. Okay, the background to this is from 9 on down through 12. He talks about the patience of the saints in not partaking of the mark of the beast or the image of the beast, because If they did, they would go into the wrath of God. Verse 10. Isn't that interesting? The saints who partake of the mark and image are going into the 8th day, the wrath of God. They will not be in the ark. And that's going to be a considerable amount of people here, because I shouldn't use the word saints. I should use the word Christians, because Christian's a very loose term now. It doesn't really mean anything, but saint means a sanctified one. All the sanctified ones will be in the ark, okay? But all of the Christians will not. Okay? And we have a lot of types to prove this. 10 out of 12 tribes worship the image of the beast in the Old Testament. This is what we're loosely calling Christians. 10 out of 12 tribes. There's going to be what the Bible calls a great falling away. You can't fall away if you're not a Christian to begin with. Right? So there is a great falling away coming. A strong delusion because of people believing they're false prophets. Okay, so after the tribulation from 9 through 12, where the mark and the image is given, which is the second 3.5 years, right? God exhorts the saints to be patient, and He says in verse 13, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, for their works follow with them." Now He begins talking about a harvest, and it is the harvest of Noah in the ark. It is the harvest of the saints at the end. "And I saw, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud I saw one sitting like unto a son of man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the temple, crying with a great voice to him that sat on the cloud, Send forth thy sickle, and reap, for the hour to reap is come. For the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud cast his sickle upon the earth, and the earth was reaped." This is the harvest. And it's the harvest of the living and the dead. It's the Noah harvest, okay?
Part 2. The Church and Tribulation.
But now he goes into talking about another harvest, the one which we've also talked about in the 8th day, the wrath of God. And so let's read that. Verse 17. "And another angel came out from the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, he that hath power over the fire. And he calleth with a great voice to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Send forth thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel cast his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vintage of the earth, and cast it into the winepress." You remember that when the Lord went forth in the day of the Lord, it was in the winepress, right? The great winepress of the wrath of God. There it is, the 8th day. "And the winepress was trodden without the city, and there came out blood from the winepress, even unto the bridles of the horses, as far as 1,600 furlongs." Most people recognize this as the Battle of Armageddon. But the Battle of Armageddon is just a tiny portion of this war. This is a world war, and it's going on around the world. Armageddon just happens to be the place where, when God gathers the nations against Israel in chapter 14 of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 2 in Zechariah. He gathers the nations, and then he says he goes forth and fights against those nations as he did in the day of battle. Do you remember how the Lord fought against the nations in the day of battle? In the day of Jehoshaphat, or in the day of Gideon? In every case, you know what he did? He went forth and divided those nations so that they fought with one another and left Israel alone. See? So the way the Lord is going to fight this battle is all nations are going to be gathered together against Israel, America included. Some people say, well, I don't see America over there. Well, the harlot rides the beast all the way to the end. Okay? And then they are given authority to destroy that harlot. The Lord put it in their heart to destroy that harlot. Well, all nations are gathered there, but they're divided at that time, because the Lord goes forth and causes them to fight with one another. You know, a nuclear world war would not stay within the confines of Armageddon, would it? The nations involved are now at war. And this war is actually going on around the world. It's not just Armageddon. Okay? So this winepress of